Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Zoning and Planning Board meeting. If I could ask everyone to stand and salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cormier, would you like to take this opportunity to swear our new member at this point in time? Thank you. Come on up there. That's you. That was you.
All right, where am I now?
Dan doesn't want to play with us.
Okay. Raise your right hand, repeat after me, and insert your name. Insert your name. I, your name,
State your name now. Mary Dodds.
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly
to
swear
support the Constitution
to support the
of the
Constitution
United States
of the United
and
States
the Constitution
and the
and
Constitution
laws
and laws
of the state of New Jersey,
of the state of New
and to
Jersey,
bear true faith
and bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same
to the same
and to the governments
and to the governments
established in this state
established on this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the
And
people.
I do further solemnly swear
And I do further solemnly
that
swear
I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the
as
duties
a member
as a member
of the Borough Runnemede Planning and Zoning Board
of the Borough of Runnemede Planning and Zoning
to
Board
the best of my ability,
to the best of my
so
ability.
help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
All right. thank you.
Congratulations. Up there. Now you want to sit up?
I sit up there?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the long version, that's the good version. I like that one.
Yes, remember?
That's the one that you
So,
did.
I sit
Yeah,
there?
you have
Wait a
to-
minute. Yeah.
Well, I read it, I started, Dave's been around a little longer than me, he's got it memorized.
So we want to
I
welcome.
cheat with my phone.
We want to welcome Mary as an alternate. She is taking Mr. Dickinson's place as an alternate, and she'll be joining Dan White as an alternate. And welcome, and we're happy that you came aboard. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner: posted on the bulletin board in the Borough Clerk's office, emailed to the retrospect, and the Courier Post. Can we have roll call, please?
Chairperson Cleveland.
Yes.
Mr. Altman.
Here.
Mrs. Gushue.
Here.
Mr. Pachowski.
He's excused. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Fennell.
Here.
Mr. Stone.
Here.
Mr. Laverty.
Here.
Did you say here?
Here.
I'm sorry. Mayor Kapadas.
Here.
Mr. Ranieri.
Here.
Mr. White.
He's
is
excused.
excused. And Ms. Dodds.
Here.
Mr. Carlemere.
Here.
Mr. Pettit.
Excused.
And Mr. Knight.
Here.
Thank you. A motion is in order for the approval of the minutes of the April 11th minutes submitted by the clerk. Anyone have a question on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes for me.
Okay, Mr. Stone, second by Ms. Gushen, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Old business, we have resolution number 18-11, Mr. Carlemere.
This is a resolution from the prior meeting to permit a 6-foot fence replacement is what it is. Requires a bulk variance of the front yard setback, remember it's a corner property. The only condition in there is that the applicant agreed to work with the board engineer to assure the exact distance, there was that question, location of the fence off the Broadway side of the home to the street. You want to know the exact distance, it wasn't showing up clearly on the survey and pictures that he had.
Right.
So that's the only thing that had to be verified.
And that was Mr. Knight, did you, Mr. Knight, you were able to verify that, or was it?
Yes, I did measure it.
And what was it, 10 feet or?
Yeah, it was 116 inches,
Okay, so 10 feet
not 9
change.
feet 6 inches. So we
Very good. Is there a motion on the floor to approve this resolution?
Make a motion.
Mr. Fennell, Ms. Gushen, may I have roll call, please, Joyce?
Mrs. Cleveland.
Yes.
Mr. Stone.
Yes.
Ms. Gushue.
Yes.
Mr. Pachowski.
Abstain.
Mr. Vanella.
Yes.
Mr. Alperly.
Abstain.
Mr. Laverty.
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor Kapadas.
Yes.
Okay. We will declare that resolution adopted. New business, do you have anything to go over under new business?
I'm assuming now that we've got the master plan, I guess it's not, hello? So I'm hoping we'll get started on the redevelopment zone coming in, hopefully maybe as early as the next meeting. Is everybody okay with that? To get back on that, get back on a redevelopment. The master plan recommendations obviously need to go to council based on the conversations. So council is going to take time in the next 2 months, basically start to adopt, of course, the standards that we've been talking about for so long in so many of the different ordinances that we have. Once again, just to reiterate a few of them, townhomes, some of the districts, to be more specific, in the R1, R2, R3 districts, the highway commercial district, all those things we've been identifying, all that stuff will be coming to council. The separate garages, we're looking at that again, impervious coverage. So things like that, hopefully will make it a little bit easier on everyone who's coming in front of the board to get things done a little bit quicker and easier. I don't, my philosophy at least has always been with the zoning and planning boards that if people keep coming in for the same thing, we should evaluate that and look at what we should do to change our ordinance. I think this board's done a pretty good job. I don't think we have a lot of the same things coming in and out, but I think we've been trying to clean things up, and I think hopefully the next couple months we'll start to do that stuff. So that's about it, but any input that the board wants to have on these ordinances, I'm going to make a point that Ms. Pinto sends it all to everyone. So you guys get an opportunity to look at it, so if we're missing something, if you have some input on something that's trivial, not trivial, but, the height of a garage in the backyard. What should the setback be? How should we require surveys for certain things? Help clean up these ordinances a little bit, so it's a little bit easier both on our zoning official and for the town in general to get things done. So if you could look at this stuff, and I guess we'll be doing it in blocks. That's kind of how we did it last time, if I remember. 8 years ago, we did blocks of ordinances and fixed them up. Is that how typically master plan? Yeah. So that's about it. And what else? Just a quick report on the mile. I actually saw the owner of the mile at the Wawa today. He's thrilled with Runnemede. I'll tell you, the guy is thrilled.
When's he open?
Well, it's always the question, isn't it? So his dilemma is his contractor, he did, the 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned to 2 months. So his goal is June, but they've had delays. You start uncovering things, and then they're seeing things that they want to replace, certain pieces of equipment and stuff like that. They're making they had a leak in the roof that they learned about, things like that. But one thing I like about the way they're doing it is they're doing it right. They're not, if they see something, they're identifying it and fixing it, where a lot of people don't do those things.
He's gonna do well there.
Yeah. And then, just on another brief note, I actually spoke, I did a little bit of Mr. Knight's job today. I noticed that the Cooper Urgent Care hadn't cut their grass. So I know the owner personally. Do you know David Cohen? Do you know David?
No, not really.
Okay.
I know, Ben probably met him, but.
Yeah, Howard Needleman's son, it's his son-in-law. It's Howard's son-in-law owns the building. So of course I called him up and said, grass is a little long. I assumed, and I assumed rightly, was that it was a new building and his landscaper was never told, this is one of your buildings that you run around and because his deal with Cooper is he's responsible for everything. So he has to maintain the inside. So he said that tomorrow someone will be out there to cut it. So I wasn't sure if you were on that at all. I saw, and to me, I think it's, and maybe this is something we can also try to do, and you and I have had this conversation before. In this particular instance, I trust the gentleman that he'll get it done and things like that. But one of the things that Keith and I have spoken a lot about was these courtesies about maybe giving someone a call and things like that. Mr. Knight's found that on more times than not, they yes you and then they don't do it. So that hurts us with our process of notifying them and going through the legal way of doing it. The phone call from me may or may not get something resolved. So we'll see if he cuts the grass tomorrow.
Yeah, but sometimes people aren't in a position to, and I know it's only cutting the grass, but, you got a lot of older people in this town. Like, can't we get, I'm sure it's a liability, but like, community service kids to go and, like,
Well, you know-
build up the ball fields all the time?
It's funny you say that all the time, and my attitude has always been, and even one of my neighbors yelled at me one time, that I went to start cutting my other neighbor's yard, and, joking. I agree, but I look at it not so much that government, should do it for us. I think that, like I said, I know that your neighbor had a problem.
Yeah.
I know you would go help your neighbor, and I agree with the older
On
people.
one side, yeah.
But that's, but that's what you find. You find that there isn't always this neighborly thing. And where is our position? typically when we cut the grass, Joyce will tell you, what's our typical grass cutting fee? $300?
Yeah, it's very
That's what I'm
expensive.
saying. But you know, you got kids that have to do community service all the time. Why can't they be, you know?
Well, Dave, do you want to take that? I mean, that, you're,
Well, I would say,
Curb maybe.
from the attorney hat, you gotta be a little cautious when services are coming in controlled by municipal government that's giving them out to residents. Now, if you have a senior program, or you have a senior, let's
Well,
say,
you title it under that
that's a
date or something,
disability,
right?
and you say, well, we're not gonna go in and maintain the whole ground, but the front curb area or something, we're gonna have a policy or program. If you identify it specifically, you lessen the door for criticism.
Gotcha.
But if you do it just with the services that come in, those type of things to the borough, should utilize it on the borough side streets and things of that nature.
it's a slippery slope, right? It gets a little bit. And most of the time, we're the enforcing agency, so it really puts us in a tough situation that you're not treating people the same way.
Picking and choosing.
But I hear you guys. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm the first one. I mean, there's been times when I got a phone,
Down every street in this town right now, and there's 3 or 4 houses all need to be.
they're behind.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and I don't think we've been tough on people right now because the season's just kind of opened up. And hopefully everybody, I just finally got my grass cut, but, yeah.
I was gonna say it for it.
296 Sunnybank, yeah.
Oh, you got one for me, Keith? I like it.
Are you allowed to send kids out with a lawnmower?
I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so.
Not on borough sanction.
Insurance
Oh my God, they got
They'll
hard.
break it, they'll break it.
I think we did it in softball fields, baseball fields. I know I did. I watched
did.
over kids that.
Oh,
I did.
4 hours that did it.
I did.
What are you talking about? But as volunteers, we were always the men doing it. It's everybody.
But I mean, not with, I never sanctioned had children with a
All our
lawnmower.
children, like they're 15, 16 years old, they
I
use
never
our
did.
equipment and we whack the
No.
fences and, yeah.
I'm just saying, under my watch, you know, why. I just told my mom she can't. No.
Oh, maybe that was something I needed done.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all sorts of power equipment they can't use.
Wow.
I just told my mother she couldn't have the neighbor start her lawnmower. He's like 16. I said, I'll come down tomorrow. She's a sweeper. I'll come down tomorrow and do it. There's no way. There's no way.
So that's about it. I just wanted to say that. I think Mr. Neary has a positive.
Yeah. Some of you might know Ken Lee. His father wrote the history of Runnemede. Lives in Runnemede. He just, he's moving his art studio to the Blackbird Pike. He just bought a building on the Pike. And the mayor and I both got to see some of his plans, what he's going to be doing to it. It's beautiful. It's a small little building, but it's going to be a little art studio, which is really nice. I think it's a big asset to the town.
It's the old Aronson.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, what is it? It's
Aronson ran his
Yeah.
real estate business out of there for about 40 years. Right next to where Thatcher.
Moss Thatcher McNeil, the little building right next to that. So that's good news, and he's excited about it.
That guy's good. He does work all over the world.
By the way, I don't know if anybody knows, but I've been talking about it for a while. Deb, you know. He's, I'm helping, and we have already done it. We put together a Runnemede Art Committee. So as we develop with the master plan and everything, green spaces and the pike, he's got some great ideas. And we have a committee, an art committee now, so it's
Do
good.
you
Focus.
see plans for the underpass? I know that the DOT would never approve. it.
We're going to work on it.
It's gonna take a while, but they're just ideas.
But the website with the lights, did you see the one with the lights
Yeah,
on
it's
it?
Well, he just wants to get everybody thinking, so.
But I like the fact that here's a gentleman, you know, this is now 2 people in just 1 day, you know, really seeing Runnemede as a positive thing. I mean, people putting money where their mouth is, that's always a big deal, you know, to invest in something. You know, you see that in other communities, and now to see it hopefully getting a little traction with,
Good.
you know, Caliber Collision, the mile, I mean, internet is everywhere. That building's been there for a long time. That's a big venture to make that place, you know, viable. And even the building that Ken's been in. I mean, Ron had that building for 50 years. And the building needs a little TLC too, so it's great to see that. But we made sure that they will follow all the rules. We always make clear what our ordinance are. And then everyone's always able to come in front of this board and ask for any relief that they, you know, deem is justified.
Is there any movement on the hotel?
You know, the only thing I can say is I did reach out once again to the owner of the property, trying to get him to not lose the liquor license. And he has not responded back to me, and I know Ms. Pinto, we've tried, but how do you, it will be, it'll be gone June, when was the, June 30th.
Or is it July 30th? It extends 30 days past the deadline.
So June 30th, but then July 30th, it gets rescinded, and it will not, it'll go away. But this is, once again, private property. It's owned by someone, it's in their name, only they can renew it. It's not like anybody could go make an offer.
And you've reached out to me, and he doesn't.
I have his cell phone number, Joyce has the
They
number.
never used the license from the day they purchased the property and the license.
How about for corporate, did you try something?
They're in Indianapolis.
I mean, it would hurt the community, I believe. There's an asset that someone just, for $1,500,
Even
not
if it's not,
renewing.
even if they don't hold it there, I mean, if we,
Put it in your pocket, right?
if we reach this redevelopment thing, and, you know, we decide, okay, we're gonna have another restaurant type of thing down the other end of the pipe or something, are you kidding me? For $1,500, you can sell it for how many thousands?
I tried that tactic, told them it was a valuable asset. Why don't they just go through the process of renewing it? There's more involved now than just renewing.
It is more involved because they let it lapse.
Get some kind of rulings, because they let it lapse for a couple of years.
Yeah,
And,
that's a shame, because we'll never get it back.
I may be wrong, it's not that, what is this?
25.
25 now, I apologize. It is, but even $2,500 is,
Right.
you
So
know.
why can't you get another one now? If that lapses and it's way past the.
State law says one license per 2,000 people,
we're
correct?
grandfathered in now.
Except for it's frozen.
It's grandfathered, so once the state, you go for it, then it doesn't.
Yeah, we go on.
So we can only get like four, I guess four, right?
Well, a new community would only be allowed 4. As the community grows, they can add a license for every 2,000 people. But in our particular case, we had more than the 4. And it was grandfathered in whenever that law was passed, the statute was passed. So this is just an older license that's been there, and these guys are in jeopardy.
Is there exceptions for hotels though?
There is a law on the books that it's over 100 rooms.
Yeah, 100-unit hotel gets the state license.
Yeah. But once again, they're, you know, they made the chief of police go repossess it for one day. Joyce has been called several times by the state ABC board trying to tell us we're in jeopardy, and what do we do? I mean, the board of the borough has no ability to grab it, correct?
The license.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they don't.
I mean, I would check with your solicitor.
I'm gonna make a phone call and come down.
What happens if you can hold on to your status, but if that is a grandfathered in license, if, once the state takes it, revokes it, do you lose it as a community?
Maybe we'll reach out with our solicitor.
I would ask that question.
Yeah, maybe it's something
I mean,
like.
that's what they told me with Sheila and Versa is the King County wrap up with the state. She told me that if it was not, if something wasn't done by July 30th, it's gone.
It's gone.
Forever, that's what she told me.
Yeah.
But she's not the attorney, so.
No.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
Okay, maybe we could do some action, try to save it.
Anything else on new business? All right, good and welfare. At this point in time, we'll open up the meeting to anyone in the public wishing to speak on any matter whatsoever.
See, no one wishes to speak, I'll close
Second.
the public portion.
All right, motion been made and seconded, close the public portion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anything else we need to go over?
Well, Mary, welcome. Obviously, you can see that some days there's no one here, but some days it is contentious, right? We've had meetings where there's a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I'll say about this board, which is different than the governing body, is if the governing body passes something, they can actually change it. They can, you know, go back and say, we made a mistake or whatever, and change the ordinance or change something. But when the planning board makes a decision, pretty much stays with that property potentially forever. So, and I take this board actually more seriously than the ordinances. We can do something to change our mind, but here, if we allow a building to be built 2 feet from a property line, that building could be there potentially for the next 100 years, if not more, and things like that. And so I'm not saying that this board has to look at every application and make, on its merits, decide the variances and waivers it needs. And I think that we've been very friendly. But at the same time, I always say that this is serious. When we allow something to happen, we have to make sure it's done with a little bit more foresight about the future. And then also, other intended consequences. We've made a decision to allow things to happen, and then all of a sudden, the applicant hasn't followed through on their side. So we also have that enforcement aspect that we've had some difficulties with. So once again, whatever we do here, we've got to be cautious that it's enforceable. I always tell the story, Washington Township had their tree police. Do you remember that? Their bushes and trees. They would require during development process people to put bushes and trees. And if put a bush or tree, well, who goes and looks at it a year or two later? And they started having somebody drive around and say, well, you know, your application says that you were supposed to have 6 trees. There's only 5 here, you need to go plant another one. I know, but it becomes difficult. Actually, right, we've had some situations where people bring things up that happened 20 years ago. Well, they promised. Remember that gentleman who said 20 years ago there was a promise? And, you know, so it becomes serious.
She was here every meeting for how long?
Yes.
Is that everything resolved?
No, and the only thing I'll say about those things too, and you know, we have some abilities here, but my attitude again towards certain things is, we all have rights to protect ourselves. So if your own personal interests are being, and your perception violated, you have the right to go to court. You know, we can only do as much as we have our legal power to do, but there's nothing to stop anyone from suing another individual to say, hey, prove to me that 25 years ago you had the right to do this.
Was that the retaining wall?
Yeah. And we couldn't prove anything either way, correct?
Yes, it went up. He had to do it on his own.
Yeah, it was basically a pre-existing condition that we couldn't prove anyway, but he could have pursued it on his own. I don't think
He did take it to municipal court.
he did take it.
Yes.
Did it go to Superior at that point, or was it?
I don't know when he did. The judge did not rule in his favor. He saw me, the judge saw me in the back of the room and asked me to testify. I was required to, but I came for it.
It's tough.
I don't know if he appealed the judge's decision or not.
Yeah, so it is it is serious. We can do things that have long-lasting ramifications. And that's it.
And Keith, I wanted to thank you for your FAQs for the newsletter. I think that was, if anybody hasn't gotten the newsletter yet, on the planning board page, I had asked Keith to make a list of frequently asked questions to help the residents, you know, on things that come up constantly, and he did a real nice job on that. I want to thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
And there will be a quiz that you must memorize everything in the 16-page newsletter. All the things we told everybody, you must know it all.
Okay, Nick is now gone. All right, with that, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Chowski, Ms. Gushin, happy Mother's Day to everyone that's here.
Same to
And
you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned at 7:25.